Hey there, my name is Evie. I'm 34 years old and recently I've had to make one of the hardest decisions of my life. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. When I was born, my parents were dirt poor. They had been planning to save up to have a child together, but my mom ended up getting pregnant. They didn't have the heart to abort the baby, so I was born. Now, before I was even born, my parents' relationship was rocky. My father would constantly yell at my mom for the smallest of things, and he'd very often be drunk out of his mind. My mom stayed by his side regardless because she was in love with him and thought that he was just going through a rough patch. It was not the easiest growing up in that household. My first ever memory was both of them yelling at me for something small I did. When my father wasn't yelling at mom, he would yell at me. And I'm not talking about the regular kind of yelling when someone's upset with you. I'm talking about yelling so loud that your face goes red and your eyes look crazy. As you can guess, that was not very nice to go through when I was a child. Whenever my father yelled at my mom and she got frustrated, she would take it out on me. So no matter what, I ended up being the punching bag for both of them. When I was 10 years old, my father randomly took off one day. He told my mom and I, while he was in the middle of screaming at us about something, that he was sick and tired of us. He told us that he'd be leaving. My mom and I tried to stop him over and over again, but he didn't listen. A month or so after he left, my mom found out that he had been cheating on her with another woman, and the reason he left was because he had gotten her pregnant. He wanted to be with her instead of his existing family. That broke my mother. She became a shell of the person she used to be, and that only scared me more. I did my best to be as good of a kid as I could be, but somehow, no matter what I did, it was never good enough. I still did my absolute best to make my mom happy. When I turned 16, I started working to help my mom cover the bills. She made it clear to me the day I turned 16 that she would kick me out as soon as I turned 18. She apparently didn't want me to mooch off of her. It broke my heart, but I figured she was probably not being too serious. My mom had a tendency to say a lot of mean things when she was angry, so I assumed it was one of those things. I still saved up money just in case. I figured if she wasn't being serious, I could use that money to help get me through college. Anyway, about a month before my birthday, I was sitting in the living room watching TV. My mom walked in and sat next to me, and after a few minutes of silence, my mom turned to talk to me. "You're turning 18 next month. I hope you have everything in order." "What are you talking about?" "I told you that you wouldn't be able to live here with me after you turned 18. "Are you seriously kicking me out?" "I'm not kicking you out. I'm preparing you for the big world. I can't keep taking care of you, even when you're an adult." "You're supposed to take care of me. That's literally what it means to be a parent." "Being a parent means taking care of children, not grown adults." "Do you seriously think that as soon as I turn 18, I'll magically gain the insights of an adult? I'm still a child. I haven't even left my teens yet." "All I'm hearing are excuses. I've been telling you since you turned 16 that you would no longer be able to live in my house as soon as you turned 18. "What if I paid you rent and contributed towards groceries? That's still me being an adult, right?" "Absolutely not. That's taking the easy way out. And I want you to be well equipped for the future. How is making sure I have a roof over my head an easy way out? Do you even know how much I had to struggle when I was your age? You're lucky I didn't make you pay me rent the second you started earning money of your own. I've given you more than enough time to prepare yourself for the future. And if you haven't, that just shows me that you definitely need this." "Mom, please, I don't want to spend all my money on rent when I will also have student loans to pay off." My university is literally half an hour away from here, and I was thinking of commuting back and forth every day. You can't seriously want me to be this financially unstable. Being financially unstable is how you learn to take proper care of your finances. I don't want to hear any more of your whining. You still have a month to sort yourself out. Don't waste your time. I couldn't believe that she was actually throwing me out. I felt so mad at that point that I decided to move out immediately. I saw no reason for me to live with her anymore when she clearly did not want me there. I still didn't have enough money to move out, but I asked a few friends if they could put me up for a few weeks, and a lot of them told me they could. So the next night, I packed all my things up, and while my mom was asleep, I moved out. My mom called me the next day to ask me where I was, and when I told her that I'd moved out, she said, and I quote, "Good riddance." Yeah, needless to say, I did not have the best relationship with her after that. I struggled for a long while after that. I had to find a way to increase my hours at work along with keeping up with my studies. Thankfully, I had some great friends who supported me throughout the whole thing. They made sure I was fed and had a roof over my head, and honestly, those were things that my mother could barely do without complaining. So to see them do that for me out of genuine kindness made me feel so many different kinds of emotions. I knew then that I had to work as hard as I could to break out of the cycle that my mom had put me in. About 6 months after I moved out of my mother's house, I managed to save up enough to rent an apartment that was a little further away from my university. But I didn't mind. I worked as hard as I could, and after I graduated college, I managed to land a great job. Since I was still a fresher and didn't have much experience, I wasn't paid as much as I liked, but my supervisor kept an eye on me. She always told me that I had great potential and she'd beg me to stay with the company. Since she believed in me, I decided to continue working there, and within a year, I'd gotten a huge promotion that came with a huge increase in my pay. I could then finally rent a better apartment and I could live more comfortably in general. During all this time, I barely spoke to my mother. The most I spoke to her was for a minute, and only to wish her on her birthday and around the holidays. She never bothered to ask me about how I was doing. And while it hurt initially, I eventually got over it. But one day I got a call from the hospital because my mother had had a bad fall and had a hairline fracture on her hip as a result. I rushed over to be by her side during the whole thing, and that kind of rekindled our relationship. We never explicitly apologized, but we knew that we wanted to be back in each other's lives. Of course, it didn't mean that I'd forgotten about what she'd done to me, but she was my mother at the end of the day, and I was the only family she had left. We still didn't speak to each other very often, but we spoke to each other a lot more than we used to. One day, my mom called me out of the blue while I was still at work. I was worried that something must have happened, so I immediately picked up the call. "Hi, sweetie." "Hi, Mom. Is everything all right?" "Not really." "Oh, why? Is it your health?" No, nothing like that. I'm just struggling a little financially." "Oh, no. How come?" "Well, my health hasn't been the best recently, and all those trips to the hospital emptied out my bank. I can't keep paying the mortgage for the house anymore." "Okay, I'll send you the money every month. How much will you need?" "No, don't do that." "Why? You need money, right? I can help you, so please let me know." "It's beyond embarrassing for me to take money from my own daughter. I was the one who forced you out of the house when you were 18 because I thought that you needed to learn how to be financially independent. I can't be hypocritical like that." Who cares about that now? Yeah, I didn't like it back then, but I did become independent, and now that I'm in a better place financially, I want to help you out. You're my mother and you're struggling, so of course I'll help you. I really love that you want to help me out, but still, I don't want you to send me money. Okay, then what do you propose to do about this situation? I love you, but I can't put you up in my home. You and I know that if I let you stay with me, we'll be miserable because we both have different ways of doing things and we'll keep arguing with each other. Renting another place will be far too expensive for me right now because I also just moved into my apartment. I know, but I thought about it and realized something. I was planning on leaving this house to you after I died anyway, so why don't I transfer the ownership to you now? In exchange, you'll have to pay the taxes and utility bills. I have enough money to buy groceries and other things that I might need. That would still be a little expensive for me. I know, but I'm sure if you budget a little bit harder, you'll be able to afford it. Plus, in the long run, you'd be a homeowner. It's a win-win overall. It'll just be a struggle initially, but I'm sure that you'll be able to overcome that. Okay, why don't you give me 2 days to think it over and I'll get back to you about it. All right, please think about it properly. If you say you can't, I'm going to have to figure out where I'm going to go. Don't worry, we'll work something out. Take care of yourself and let me know if you need anything else. I'm not going to lie, but I really did not want to take on that burden. I had only just managed to pay off my student loans, and I did not want to deal with yet another loan. I tried my best to figure out where my mother could go if I said no, and there was literally no way for me to do anything. Helping my mom rent out a flat for years only to get nothing in return would be a horrible decision for me. If my mom transferred the house to me, I'd have to deal with an even bigger tax bill than she was footing because the value of the house must have gone up since she and my father bought it. Since I couldn't figure out what to do by myself, I took up the situation with my accountant, and after running a few calculations and considering all the pros and cons, we decided it would be best for me to take possession of my mother's house now. When she leaves, I can easily move in, or I could sell the house for a greater price and I'll still end up making a profit. When I told my mom the news, she was ecstatic. She thanked me over and over again, and a part of me was glad that I could help her out. Once the paperwork was completed, my mom stayed as a tenant in the house, except she was living for free while I took care of all the maintenance. Initially, my mom was careful about asking me for things regarding the house, but over time, she became demanding, like she'd one day wake up and feel like the house needed a paint job. And if I said no, she'd pester me for weeks until I eventually blocked her, threatened to evict her, or gave in. Anyway, that's what it was like for 2 entire years. My relationship with my mother somehow improved and worsened at the same time, and I have no idea how that's even possible. One day, though, while I was in the middle of a meeting, my mom began spamming my phone with calls. I couldn't answer at that moment, but I couldn't help but feel something was seriously wrong because she never spammed me like that, even when she needed something desperately. As soon as the meeting was done, I called her back. Hi, Mom. Sorry, I couldn't pick up your call earlier. I was busy. Hi, darling. It's okay. I called you because I needed to ask you about something. Okay, what is it? So I recently met someone. Oh, like romantically? Well, technically, the romance has always been there. He was just absent for a while. What do you mean? Stop beating around the bush and just tell me already. Your dad came back. What? I know that you aren't exactly his biggest fan. Biggest fan? He literally abandoned both of us when I was 10 years old because he was sick and tired of us. He impregnated another woman and played the perfect father for those kids while we struggled to get by. I know, but he came back last month and he's been showing me how much he regrets leaving us behind. He's a changed man, Evie, so I've decided to give him another shot. You cannot be serious. I am. I know you don't agree with it, but this is my life. You have no say in what I do. Why did you even call me to tell me about this then? Because I want to give this house back to him. What? Are you out of your mind? The house had always been his. He gave it to me right before he left because he pitied me. Now that he's back, I want him to have his house back. I'm not giving him that house. Since that house is in my name, I also want him out of there. I only allowed you to stay there. If he wants to live there, I expect him to pay me rent. You can't make your father pay rent for a place he owned. First of all, he is not my father. He was not there for me at all, and as far as I'm concerned, my father died when I was 10. Secondly, he used to own the house, and now I do. If you sold your house to someone else and then asked the buyers if you could live there, would you not pay them rent for it? You never bought it from me, though. I want you to transfer the house over to him. It was under my name, and I can easily make it look like you forced me to give you the house. Why are you choosing the man who left you to suffer over your daughter who's done everything in her power to help you? Stop being so dramatic. I don't care what you do. I'm not giving you the house. Take some time to think about what you're really doing. As soon as that man gets the house, he's going to abandon you again. You're making a bad decision. I'm telling you for the last time that I want the house in his name again. And I'm telling you for the last time that I'm not doing it. Goodbye. I can't even describe the emotions I felt during that call. All I knew was that I felt rage coursing through me. I had no idea how my mom could have let my deadbeat father back into her life just like that, when he'd done nothing but torture her for years before finally leaving her to take care of me all by myself. More than that, I couldn't believe that she wanted to give the house back to him. He left that house behind to my mother when he left her because that was his pathetic apology for abandoning us. To give it back to him while I was sure he was not earning anything was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard of. Over the next week, Mom kept trying to get me to transfer the home to my father, but I kept refusing. I would not give in to that whim of hers. And then one day I got visited by Adult Protective Services, which is essentially a protective service for the elderly. Apparently my mom had phoned in and told them that I had coerced her into giving up her house, and I was now financially abusing her. Of course, they took that case very seriously. I had to do a lot of talking and showing proof to convince them that that wasn't the case. More than anything, I couldn't have a criminal record on my name because my company would fire me immediately, and I would have a hard time finding another job. As soon as the APS agents were gone, I called my mother. You called Adult Protective Services on me? I told you to do what I said. I can't believe you really jeopardized my life over this. Do you know the kind of trouble I would have been in if they actually believed that I had coerced you into signing the house over to me and had been financially abusing you? I don't care about any of that. I told you in our last conversation that you would be in a lot of trouble if you didn't sign the house off to your father. I told you that I didn't want to do that. He's going to abandon you, and the last thing I want is for you to be stranded when you have no money for yourself. Why do you always assume the worst out of everything? I'm not assuming the worst out of the man. I know firsthand what he's like, something you should know even better. Why is he back in your life right now? Because he wants to atone for what he did before. Bull. What is the real reason, Mom? That man has no heart. Why did he abandon his family for his previous one, 20 years after he left us? Well, he was having an affair with another woman and his previous wife found out, so she divorced him. He has nothing to his name because she took everything from him. So he came crawling back to you, and you're okay with that? I've known your father since we were kids. I know that he's a good man deep down. He's made a few mistakes over the last few years, but he realized them, and he's working hard to make up for them. Spilling milk is a mistake, not abandoning your wife and child. He wants the house for something else. I will not let you fall for this trap. I'm not stupid enough to not know when someone is playing with me. I don't need you to protect me. You need to sign over the house to him or I will make things even worse for you. Don't think I won't fabricate evidence against you. Wow. Why are you so adamant about this? What is that man possibly doing to make up for the past 20 years that you're willing to throw your daughter under the bus this way? He's doing all the things he never did, and I can see how much he's hurting over what he did to us. I want to help him, and I know this is the best thing I can do for him. Does he have any money, or are you supporting him? I am, but that's none of your concern. You couldn't afford the mortgage before. What makes you think you can do it now? That is not a concern for you. Just transfer the house to him before I call the APS again. Fine. I will transfer the house to his name, but if he plays any games with you and ends up leaving you, I'm not going to help you out. I will not care what condition you're in, but remember that I'm the only family you have around here. Nothing like that will happen. I won't come to you for help. I mean, you've made my life nightmarish anyway ever since I gave you the house. Wow. Okay, whatever. I'll get the paperwork started tomorrow. Bye. I had had enough of her. I tried my best to reason with her, but since she wanted to do what she wanted to do, I saw no reason to stop her. I transferred the house to my father's name and pretty much went no contact with my mother. I didn't block her number or anything, but I made sure to avoid all calls and texts from her. More than anything, I was mad that I'd invested so much in that house, only for it to go back to the deadbeat. I couldn't bring myself to even forgive my mother at that point. Over the next year, I focused on my work and decided to try to climb higher on the corporate ladder. I was doing a great job and even managed to get another promotion. Just as I was beginning to forget about the pain of my own mother betraying me, I got a call from her. It had been a long while since she called me, but I still ignored it. I knew that I wanted nothing to do with her. The issue was that she would not stop calling me, so I eventually picked it up. Evie, you finally picked up my call. What is it? I have no time for this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for the way I treated you before. Why are you apologizing to me right now? Did something happen to you? I'm homeless. Please help me. Oh, wow. What a shocker. How did this happen when I specifically told you that this would happen anyway? Please don't be mean right now. I know you were absolutely right, but you have to help me out right now. I have to. I don't think I have to do anything to help you out. I know more than anyone else how much you love to hold grudges against people who've wronged you, but I'm your mother. Please just show me some compassion and help me out. Mom, I would love to help you out, but I can't. I told you over and over again not to give your house to that man. I barely knew him as a person, but I knew enough to warn you. Instead of listening to me, you tried to destroy my life. I messed up. Big time, I know. But you have no idea how hard Graham had been trying to get me to forgive him. I saw how much work he put into making up for what he did to us, and I couldn't just not help him out. If he really wanted to make up for his past actions, shouldn't he have contacted me too? If he was truly that sorry, then he should have tried to apologize to his daughter, who he left behind even when she cried uncontrollably for him to stay. Did he even ask you about me as a person, or did he only see me as the owner of the house? He did not. But what's done is done now. The house belongs to him and his family now. I want to stay with you until we find another place for me. I told you, I'm not helping you out. But what do you mean by the house belongs to his family? Well, it turns out that he hadn't actually divorced his wife, but they'd fallen on hard times, so he came to get his house back because they had no other place to stay. They kicked me out, and now I'm living out of my car. Wow, what a scumbag. I completely agree with you. So will you help your poor mother out? Absolutely not. And just in case you try to get the law involved again, I made you sign a contract saying that if you asked me for help, I would not be obliged to help you. You ruined your only relationship with family for a man who abandoned you. I hope you're happy about that. Good luck figuring things out. I know I sound heartless, but I had gotten tired of my mom's shenanigans. I had warned her several times not to make that decision, but she chose to go behind my back and try to get me in hot water. I could have lost my job if that did turn into a criminal charge, and then I'd be struggling just like her. I worked hard to get myself out of poverty, and I would not let her put me back there again. She had made her bed, and it was time for her to lie in it. Of course, I felt horrible about what I was doing to my mother, but I also knew that this was what she did to me when I was barely an adult. I didn't want to be just like her. So as a financial act of kindness, I sent her a good amount of money and told her that I was not going to help her out again. I got a few calls from her friends telling me how horrible I was, but I reminded them all that she had brought this on herself. I had done everything I could for her, and if she still chose to go against me, there was nothing more I could do. I also encouraged them to take her in since I was horrible for doing that to her, and all of them went silent after that. I heard that a few of them had helped her out, but there was not much they could do for her either. My mother ended up getting government aid, and she's just barely getting by. I hate to see her like this, but she has to suffer the consequences of her actions. Thankfully, she hasn't caused me any more trouble. She realized pretty quickly how fast her signing the contract with me backfired. She blocked me everywhere, but not before texting me a bunch of curses and calling me a worthless, useless brat. So I guess I dodged a whole bullet there. It's been hard to come to terms with my decision, but I've been in therapy, and my therapist helped me realize just how much of a doormat I had been with my mom. I did whatever she said, just because I felt obligated to, and I had suppressed all my negative emotions towards her for years. She'd hurt me so many times and in so many ways that I grew numb to her actions. I'm glad I finally stood up for myself, because I know that if I had given in and helped her out, I would not have been in a good place mentally. I'm sure that my mother will be able to get through this, and if she really needs me, I'll help her out. For now, she'll need to struggle a little bit and learn from her mistakes. I finally feel like I can breathe freely now, and I'm going to make the most of it. Not owning the house has cleared my budget by a lot, so I'm treating myself to a lot of things I missed out on over the last few years. As bleak as things may look for me right now, I know that the future will be bright. Thanks for listening to my story.